So I'll turn my camera on, quickly introduce myself for those of you who I haven't met yet. I'm Cade Lejeune. I get to serve as the Executive Secretary for FFA here in Louisiana. For all of you who are judges, thank you for volunteering to do this for us. This is a very unique year in which we've had to convert all of our FFA programming to a virtual format. We successfully pulled this off up for Area 1 up in North Louisiana back in December. It was a smaller event, so I was happy and thankful that we had that opportunity to practice this. We've done a few district events at this point virtually. They've worked out. So I think we've gotten a pretty good system down of how these virtual events are going to take place. So just as a general overview for those of you who maybe are not familiar, these are our leadership development events. So this is going to be all of our FFA public speaking competitions, our employment skills, which is basically a job interview, our Go Teach Ag event where students simulate being an ag teacher in a classroom. So it's all of the speaking and leadership activities that we teach that we'll be doing these competitions for. Done through Zoom, it's pretty straightforward. So the purpose of this morning's meeting is to give you an overview of what Wednesday will look like, how the scoring will work, how the judging will work, what are some of the procedures, protocols, and I'm going to give you some more resources where you can look if you have questions. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen here. At any time, if you have questions, students, teachers, judges, if you have questions about any of this, please feel free to stop me and ask. Make sure that we get all of your questions answered. So can everyone see this screen? It should be a Google Doc with some rules on it. Somebody give me a thumbs up. All right, I believe we can see it. So first off, let's talk about the Zoom procedures in general. The main Zoom room will serve as the holding room. So when students come in, when you come into Zoom, that is the holding room. Now, to clarify, when we do this in person, everyone sits in the holding room for the entire day until you present. You just sit there and you wait. Because of the virtual setting, I'm not going to make you sit in a virtual holding room all night long. As soon as we're finished with this, we're going to draw for order, and I'm going to send all of the ag teachers and judges a schedule. That schedule is going to have a time on it. That time is the time that you're going to join Zoom. So you're not going to be sitting in the virtual holding room the entire time. You're going to join in 15 minutes prior to your presentation so we can check your technology. And then once you present, you'll be able to leave. But that Zoom room will be the main holding room whenever you arrive. Each event is going to have its own separate Zoom breakout room. So at this point, we've been living through pandemic for almost a year now, and everybody I think has used Zoom. Is anyone on this call unfamiliar with how breakout rooms on Zoom work?
Okay, this is Eugene Cook, and no, I have not.
Okay, so what I'll do for you, Mr. Eugene, here in a minute, when we get to the end of this, I will pull up a mock breakout room and we'll pop it up to make sure you can see it show up on your iPad. It's really simple. It's just another separate virtual room. And when I create it and I give you an invite to join, it'll pop up on your screen. You click on it and it just moves you into that breakout room. So each event will have its own breakout room. When the students and the judges enter the main room, I will assign you to the breakout room. The invite will come up on your screen, and then you'll be able to join that room.
Hey, Kate.
Yes, sir.
This is Jim Jenkins. I'm going to sit in on the breakout room demonstration.
Okay, that'll be perfect. For extemporaneous speaking, this only applies to students. There's going to be 2 additional rooms because you have to have prep time for 30 minutes. We're going to do 2 of them. That way you'll be alone in your own prep room. We'll have a monitor in there supervising you. Employment skills will have 1 additional room because after your interview, you're going to do a follow-up email. We'll move you into that room. So that only pertains to students. Again, you'll get an invite to move into that room. I will be controlling the entire system, so I'll have the ability to move people in and out where you need to be. For all of our judges, I'm asking that you join no later than 3:45. I'm going to have Zoom open by 3 o'clock. If you want to join early, feel free so I can get things set up. But I would like for you to join no later than 3:45 on Wednesday so that we can check your technology. Then I'll move you into the breakout room so you can be prepared for the students. For the students, you're going to join at the time indicated on your schedule. I'm going to share that later today once we draw for order here at the end of this. The start time is going to be 15 minutes after that arrival time. We had some confusion in another district event. I had people showing up 30 minutes early because if 3:45 was on their schedule, they thought that was the time they were going to start presenting. The time on the schedule is the time that you should show up to Zoom. Now you can show up earlier than that, but no later than that time on the schedule should you show up. I'm going to make sure with every student that we check the camera, we check the microphone, we're going to come and see them so that nobody is going to have a technology issue. We're going to make sure that everyone is working before we get started. For our judges, if you have a camera ability, please keep your camera on during the students' presentations. It's really awkward for a student to be talking to a blank screen. We want them to be able to see the judges. I know that sometimes we have camera issues, but if you do have camera ability, please turn it on during the presentations. The judges should keep their microphones muted if you're judging a speaking event. So if you're judging prepared, Gulf of Mexico, Creed, extemporaneous, when the student is giving a speech, please keep your microphones off. That way there's no accidental background interruption. If you're judging employment skills and Go Teach Ag, you'll need to keep your microphones on because there's going to be engagement with the students during those presentations. So just keep that in mind depending on which one you're judging. If you're a student, you're required to keep your camera and your microphone on at all times. During prep time, during presentation time, it always has to be on. That's one of the security features so that we can make sure that when you're supposed to be alone, that no one else is in the room with you. If the presentation starts and we have a technology issue, stop the time immediately. Just stop it on your timer. And then you'll have an ag teacher judging in each competition room with you. That ag teacher will contact me and we'll determine the most fair way. If it's like Go Teach Ag or employment skills, we probably can just get reset and just have the student pick up where they left off. If it's prepared public speaking and something messes up in the middle, the most fair thing may just be to start over from the beginning. So we'll just determine, we'll talk with the student and their teacher and make sure we come up with the most fair way. This has been pretty rare. Usually the technology issues we have been during Go Teach Ag when they try to share their screen, and we normally catch that before the presentation starts. So I'm pretty confident as long as you have good, fast, stable internet and a good device, you shouldn't have any issues with technology. Once the student is completely finished, so when they're finished giving their speech, when they're finished with Go Teach Ag, if they're doing employment skills, once they finish the interview and they write their follow-up email, when they're done, the student will just leave Zoom altogether. We're not sitting around waiting for results. You'll get those a day or two later once we get them tabulated. So once the student is done, you should exit the Zoom room completely. Does anyone have questions on general Zoom procedures? So let's talk about scoring now. In the past, we've used paper scorecards. Each judge would fill out a paper scorecard. We'd have to run it down the hallway to the superintendent. Then the superintendent would have to type it into a spreadsheet. One of the silver linings of COVID is that we've learned that digital scorecards are the way to go, and we will probably use digital scorecards forever now, even once we go back into an in-person format. Everybody's got devices now. Everybody can access digital cards. They make life so much easier and so much less paper to print on. So we're going to use digital scorecards for these events. I've already emailed the judges your digital scorecard for your event. Please make sure you take the time to look through that card. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out to me. It's on a Google form. It's pretty self-explanatory. It goes from the beginning to the end, and all the required things that you have to fill in are going to require you to put a number or other piece of information. So you shouldn't make any mistakes as far as missing something on it. There is a section where the judge's name is required. We are not sharing judges' scores with the students and teachers. The judge's name is required to make sure that I get a scorecard from each judge. Sometimes you may click and it doesn't submit, or you might forget one. That way I can see, I'll know how many students we have, how many judges we have. If something's missing, I can go back and figure out who didn't turn one in. So that's the purpose of requiring the judge's name. It is highly, highly recommended. I would almost say necessary for judges that you record your scores on a paper scorecard first, and then after the event is over, transfer those scores to a digital card. And the reason why is because the way that the digital card looks, it's kind of long because there was just no good way of converting it exactly as it looks on paper to a digital version. So it's a long thing that you have to scroll down on. It's going to be distracting for you if you're trying to watch the student give his or her speech. and at the same time trying to fill in a digital card. So what I would do is I would recommend that you write down your scores on paper. I will show you here when we're done where you can find the original paper versions of the scorecards. I would do them on paper first, and then after the student is done, then go onto the digital card and submit your scores that way. It's important that judges do not discuss student performance with other judges between presentations. Each judge is scoring independently. It's not a collaborative exercise in scoring. The judges themselves are not going to collaborate to come up with first, second, third, fourth. We're going to use the scores and the rankings of the scores to do that. So each judge will score independently, and then you're going to submit your scorecard whenever you're finished scoring that student. The final placings are calculated by taking the average rankings of each judge. We do this with an Excel formula. So once you're done, all of your scores go into an Excel spreadsheet. We take that and put it into the spreadsheet for that event, and then it calculates ranking based on that. So it's all very numerical. We try to make this as absolutely objective as possible to eliminate any kind of bias or subjectivity from the event. We do have one ag teacher assigned to each event as a judge. That ag teacher will be scoring. Those ag teachers do not have students in those particular events, but they're also there to help with rule interpretation, to answer any questions you may have. Again, I will be on the call the whole time. So if there's just something that you just have an issue that you can't answer, of course, reach out to me and we'll work through it. But that teacher is there to help with those kinds of questions. The only exception for that is going to be in the creed speaking competition. There are 3 judges and 1 teacher there. So there's 4 people there. The teacher in creed speaking is going to be there to count words during the creed speech and to keep time. So that teacher is not going to be scoring. She's just going to be checking to make sure that students aren't missing words, because every word missed is a deduction. Do any of our judges, our students, our teachers have questions about how things are going to be scored? If not, we'll move on now to a few reminders for our students. Again, I'm going to show you our website here in a few minutes. Teachers and students, you need to make sure you go review the special LDE instructions on our website, mainly to make sure that you're following compliance with the virtual rules. We adopted these virtual rules last summer when we first had to roll out virtual CDEs. Actually, we did it before that. We did it with State Nominating Committee back last June. They've worked really well. It's our best way of ensuring fairness, of making sure that everyone is using the utmost integrity throughout the process. So please make sure you review those prior to starting. Students, make sure you're on time for your presentation. If you're late because of a technology issue, your teacher needs to call me immediately so that we can accommodate you. But if you just miss your time, we're going to keep going. And there's no guarantee that you'll be able to present after that time. So make sure you're on time for your presentation. I would also highly, highly suggest teachers and students, you need to practice your event using technology prior to the event. So I know, especially like for speaking, you've probably practiced your speech over and over again. You probably have not practiced it though using the technology. I would highly encourage you to get with your teacher, 2 of you get in a different room on a computer, on a device, and you practice giving your speech via Zoom to get a feel for it, to make sure that it works. Especially if you're not going to be using a laptop or a desktop with a camera, that's going to be a smaller device, you need to make sure that you're set up properly. The biggest technology issue we've had has been with Chromebooks. So if you're going to be using a Chromebook, you need to make sure that you are good to go. They especially have issues with their cameras. And even more so if you're going to be using a Chromebook for Go Teach Ag, that's almost been impossible. They have a hard time using the share screen feature. There has been some pretty bad breakdowns in Go Teach Ag because of students using Chromebooks. So make sure that you have your technology ready to go. I would not recommend doing Go Teach Ag on a Chromebook or on a cell phone. If you're in Go Teach Ag, you need to figure out a way to have an actual computer or a laptop in order for it to work properly. So please make sure you practice that ahead of time. We're not going to disqualify a student if it's a technology issue. But the reality is that if your technology is not working, you're just going to have to do the best you can, and we're going to have to do the best we can. So do everything you can to make sure you've got good working technology before we start. Typically, official dress is required. This year, because of the COVID situation, it's not required. You should wear it if you have access to it, But if for some reason you're quarantined and you don't have access to official dress, we're not going to be taking off points for not wearing official dress. Please dress properly. You should be in some, decently dressed, at least school uniform appropriate. I would not recommend you show up wearing t-shirt and pajamas or anything like that. Dress professionally, but official dress is not required if you can't access it. And just as a heads up to some of our judges, some of these students will be competing from home. I got a call from a teacher yesterday. There's a bunch of students that are on quarantine. We'll probably have to do this from their house. That's perfectly okay. We will still do technology and security checks with them, but just don't be surprised if you're getting kids visiting with you from their bedroom, from their kitchen. They're not all going to be at school, and that's expected, and that's okay. Just give you a heads up on that. We will not be releasing results the night of the event because the judges are going to have to go back afterward and input their scores into digital. And then we have to take those digital scores and put them into the spreadsheet. It takes a little while. I will try to get them to you by the next day. It's possible it could be a couple of days after that. So just be patient. The good thing is this event's going to take place on February 24th. We're not doing state until the first week of June. So you've got lots of time. We will get them to you within a few days though. We'll make that announcement on social media to give you time to watch. Then we'll do a special, probably a YouTube release of those results once they're available. Do any of our students or teachers have questions about student procedures?
Mr. Lazare,
Yes, sir.
you may have said it at first, and I might have missed it, but competition wise, did we talk about if they're gonna be standing or sitting or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll go through that on these event notes. My recommendation is that you do it sitting just because it guarantees that you're in the camera shot and that we can hear you. I have seen some districts where the student did stand up, but if you're going to stand, you can't move because if you walk out of the camera shot or if you're moving back and forth and the audio is bad, the judge is just going to have to judge what they see and hear. So we did this for state nominating committee. It was required to sit for the national nominating committee. Sarah had to sit for all of her presentations because of that issue, because it's much easier to see and hear. We're not going to disqualify you if you don't sit down, but I would highly recommend that you do it seated.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about student instructions? So let's quickly talk about each event. We have 4 teams participating in Parliamentary Procedure. You're going to have a written exam. It's going to be sent to you via Google form. I'm going to put it into a form, and then we're going to put you in a room. So actually, I'll have another room for Parliamentary Procedure for the exam. We're going to put a link in the Zoom chat. So you want to make sure your Zoom chat is working. You'll click on that link. It'll open the form, and that's where the exam will be taken. And then we'll be able to pull the results from there. The motions for the event are going to be emailed to the advisor a couple of minutes prior to the demonstration. So advisors, if you have a P-Law team, just know that you're going to get the motions sent to you. You're going to print them off and you're going to prep your room just like you would for an event. So you're going to take the cards and you're going to take the motion cards and put them on the seats and have everything ready. We'll send it to you just a couple of minutes prior to make sure that nobody gets access to it far in advance where you have time to practice it. Make sure, however, your camera and microphone are going to be set up that we can clearly see and hear all of the members during the demonstration. There's no specific way you have to do this. We just have to be able to see all 6 members and hear them. I would highly encourage you tell your members to practice speaking very loudly so that it can be heard. I would move anything away. So if there's other chairs nearby, other tables, just move them out of the way so there's not a lot of background noise while the presentation is going on. Again, try to practice this prior to the day of so that you're good to go. I did have questions. Can the team walk into the room like they would if it was an in-person presentation? Yes, you're perfectly welcome to do that. Just make sure your camera and microphone are set up where they're going to be before the event starts. For Gulf of Mexico, Prepared, and Creed, it's the same recommendations. Highly, highly, highly recommended that you sit to avoid moving out of the camera shot and so that we can hear you clearly. I know it's a little awkward giving a speech seated. It's just something that you probably are going to want to accommodate to make sure that the judges can see and hear you. The judges are going to accommodate on the scorecard. I know that there's a lot of parts about motion and judging the gestures, that sort of thing. Just practice using your hands. It just is what it is. You're not going to be able to move feet and feet and feet side to side while you're giving the speech. You're going to walk out of the camera shot if you do that. So I would highly encourage you to do it in the seated position. For extemporaneous speaking, it's the same recommendation about giving the speech seated. The other issue with extemporaneous speaking is that there's going to be a monitor sitting in the virtual Zoom prep room during your observation time. You can still use the internet. We're going to do that for the first 10 minutes. What we'll do after those 10 minutes are over, you're going to have to physically move away from the computer, and then you can spend the remainder of your 30 minutes using your prepared books or your prepared binder. You'll have to hold those up to the camera ahead of time so that we can verify that those resources are admissible. For Go Teach Ag, I know we've gone over this several times, but as another reminder, all of your activities have to be virtual. We're not sharing physical items with the judges. So if you've got manipulatives, if you've got worksheets, it all has to be done in a virtual setting. Now you can share links through the chat. You can pull things up on the screen. You can pull QR codes up on the screen and have the judges scan them. However you want to do it is fine. It just has to be virtually adaptable. There is no physical handouts or things that the judges are going to be sent prior to the event. So just make sure it's all virtual. The judges are going to serve as the students in your event. We had some conversations about this back whenever we were getting LDE set up about would we just get students at the school. We were concerned about COVID issues. We were concerned about the fact that I know and you know that if you were going to have students, you were going to practice this with the students. It was going to all be very prepared, very canned. So the judges are going to serve as the students in your event to make it a very authentic or as authentic as we can demonstration. Final and employment skills, you're going to do your interview with the judges and then once the interview is over, you're going to have a follow-up email. Ms. Shatana Bingham is our superintendent for this event. She's going to be in the virtual follow-up email room with you. She will provide you with the format. You're going to compose your email and then you're going to send it to her. If we have an email issue where a student for whatever reason cannot send an email, you need to get with Ms. Bingham or with me ahead of time so that we can make an alternative accommodation for you. We can figure that out. It will be a follow-up email. Ms. Bingham is then going to send those emails to the judges who are going to score them once the event is over. So the student's not going to email the judges directly. Does anyone have questions about the individual events and procedures for those? All right, if there's no questions there, I'm going to share with you a few other resources that you can visit to make sure you're prepared. This is for judges and for students. You're going to find all of these on our website. So let me pull this one up. If you go to our state website, you should see it here on the screen. It's laffa.org. You're going to go to association here on the top. Well, there we go. You're going to scroll down to career and leadership development events. There's a couple of things I'll point you to. First off, I talked about our special instructions for Area 4. You'll find those right here. So on the right, if you go under CDELD preparations, if you click on Area 4 special instructions, these are all the virtual guidelines that we created. Really, we've been creating these since last summer. They've just been adapted now for virtual LDEs. So definitely make sure, if you should have done this already if you are a student or an ag teacher, but if you haven't done it yet, please go read through these virtual instructions to make sure that you're fully prepared for the event. Judges, I would encourage you go take a peek at this also. This is what the students are using during the competition. And then for individual events, if you scroll down, you'll find them here. So here's creed, employment, extemporaneous. You can read the rest of them down. If you click on those, and I've already sent these to the judges, like if you click on extemporaneous speaking, you'll find the rules there for the event. So if you are judging, I highly recommended that you put these on paper first before you put them into the digital scorecard. If you click on the rules, that's where you'll find those the paper version of the scorecards. So if you click on the rules and you scroll down, you probably have seen them already. The last page or pages will be the paper version of the scorecard that you can use to do your scoring before you put them into the digital version. The only other thing I believe we were going to discuss prior to drawing for order was how to use breakout rooms. So what I'll do, let me create one quickly. I'm just going to create a random room. What should happen is you should get a notification pop up on your screen inviting you to join that room. I'm going to rename it practice room. I'm going to open it. So all of you should now have gotten an invite to join that practice room. If you don't see a notification, please let me know, and we'll have to figure out if you can use a different device. And it looks like some people are joining the room. For those of you who are still sitting here, I'm going to go jump in that breakout room for just a second and make sure everyone saw. Does anyone have any questions about anything at all that we've covered, any, concerns you may have, things I can clarify for you?
I have one question, Kay. This is Laura Ragus.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we going to get a list of how many participants are in our category so we know how many paper judging forms to print out?
Yes, ma'am. As soon as we're finished here, I'm going to draw for order. I'm going to do it here on screen, so y'all are free to sit and watch if you want to. We'll randomly draw for order, and then I'll email you that schedule, and so you'll see how many you have and what time they're scheduled to start.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? All right. If there's no other questions, make sure you email me, call me if you think of anything between now and Wednesday. For those of you who are judging, it is critical, if I emailed you yesterday with documents, manuscripts, that you grade those prior to Wednesday, especially for all of them. It's really important, but especially in Go Teach Ag and Employment Skills, it's critical that we get those graded ahead of time. All the manuscripts you're going to be grading, all of the applications, the lesson plans, whatever you have in your event, please make sure that those are all done. I just updated employment skills this morning with one additional document. I believe, I've looked over this multiple times, I think everything is there now. So you should have everything you need. If it looks like you're missing something, please call me, because it's possible that I may have missed an email from an ag teacher, and I don't want to have a student lose points because of an error that I possibly made. So again, feel free to email me, reach out if you have questions about that. as we go on. Just as a reminder, we're going to be meeting again on Wednesday. The competition starts at 4. Please join no later than 3:45. I'll have the room open at 3 o'clock if you want to get on earlier. So if you are needing to go, feel free to do that. If you want to stay on, I'm at this point going to start doing a random drawing for order. You're welcome to watch that. That's probably more so for students and teachers who are going to want to see it. I'll also be sharing this recording later today, and I'll email it to you also so that you can go back and watch if you have any questions. All right. If you're sticking around, what I'm going to do is I'll share my screen. We're going to draw for order. I'm going to go down the list here, spreadsheet. So this first one, everybody can see the spinner, correct? This first one is going to be for parliamentary procedure. This was Dr. Smith's idea, by the way. He was the one who discussed the spinning wheel. All right, so 5th Ward will be first. Let me make a note. North Shore will be second. Slidell is third. And so Ponchatoula will be fourth. All right, so for parliamentary procedure, it'll be 5th Ward, North Shore, Slidell, and Ponchatoula. So now we'll go on to Gulf of Mexico. We've got 3 participants in Gulf this year. First will be Iberville. Central Lafourche will be second, and North Shore will be third. All right, now we'll move on to prepared speaking. We've got a few more in this one. First is Pearl River. Second will be Lockport. Fifth Ward is third. North Shore is fourth. Sanama will be fifth. Thibodeau Blue is sixth. Thibodeau Gold is seventh, and Iberville is eighth. Now we'll go on to Creed. We have 11 in Creed. It's typically one of our bigger ones. Creekside will be first. East Thibodeau is second. Lockport Blue is third. Walker Gold is fourth. Iberville is fifth. Fifth Ward is sixth. Thibodeau is seventh. Walker Blue is eighth. Farnadoe Junior is ninth. I just had a question. Will all 11 be presenting on the 24th? Yes, everyone will be presenting on the 24th of next week. For Creed, this goes really quickly. I mean, teachers who've judged Creed before me, for 11 kids, will get through this in probably less than 2 hours. It doesn't take long for Creed. Folsom Junior is 10th. So that means Lockport Gold will be 11th. All right, now we will move on to extemporaneous speaking. We've got 9 contestants this year. First up will be Central Lafourche Blue. Ponchatoula will be second. Central Lafourche Gold will be third. Thibodeau will be fourth. Slidell will be fifth. Iberville is sixth. Farnadoe Gold is seventh. Fifth Ward is 8th, and Varnado Blue will be 9th. Now we'll move on to Go Teach Ag. This year we have 10 contestants. First off is East Ascension. Second is Iberville. Third is Walker. North Shore Blue is 4th. South Lafourche is 5th. Fountain Blue Junior is 6th. Central Lafourche will be 7th. Mount Herman is 8th. North Shore Gold is 9th, and that means Sandomal will be 10th. And our last event is Employment Skills. This year we have 9 contestants. Sandomal will go first. Iberville Blue will go second. North Shore Gold will be third. Varnado is 4th. Iberville Gold is 5th. Fountain Blue Junior is 6th. Central Lafourche is 7th. Eighth, and North Shore Blue will be 9th. So that is our order for all of our events. Again, I'll be sharing this out later today once I get it all typed up along with this video. If anybody has questions between now and then or before next Wednesday, please make sure to reach out. Hope you have good weekends. Hopefully it warms up for you at home. And I'm excited that all of you are going to be able to participate with us next week. Have a good weekend.